Hello everybody, Qualia Quartz here, back with another 20 album cover banner designs. We're surpassing 100 with this one, we're going into the triple digits now. Today I'm once again trying to get through the most requested albums. Keep in mind this list has gotten so long. Be patient because I got a lot of videos worth of albums to get through. We're starting off strong with one that I think all of you should recognize right off the bat. If you don't, there's something wrong with you. It's Nevermind by Nirvana. Take a blue banner, give it black spikes on the bottom, cut it off on the right, either with the stripe or a box, doesn't really matter. Give it a blue border, a light blue gradient from the top, a pink circle, and then a pink skull pattern. Up next, we've got another one from the indecipherable land of Scotland. It's Heaven or Las Vegas by Cocteau Twins. That was a Cocteau Twins joke, by the way, not an I can't understand Scottish people joke. Although I did have to turn on subtitles for After Sun. Take a blue banner, give it a pink squiggly border, lime spikes on top, a blue border, a red gradient from the bottom, an orange thing symbol, and finish it off with a big red block on the bottom. Up next, I'm not entirely sure how recognizable this one is as a banner. I'm scared that this one might be a little hard to recognize still. It's Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd, in which we take a white banner, give it a light gray stripe, a gray gradient from the bottom, black stripes, a gray block on the bottom, a light gray triangle on top, and a white border. Ideally, I'd try to get these black lines on the edges out of the frame, but you could see that as part of the warehouses. Overall, I think it came out pretty good. Up next, I think everyone should be able to get this one too. It's Damn by Kendrick Lamar. Take a gray banner, give it some brown bricks, a red gradient from the bottom. This is good for color differentiation for later on. A white triangle from the bottom, a black circle, then a brown circle, and then red spikes on top. Up next, let me try to just show the bottom part here. I mean, my friend Max was able to identify it by this cover alone, but if we show both of them, then it's kind of a dead giveaway. It's Is This It by The Strokes, and I did both covers because I wanted to. For the better one, we start with a white banner, give it a black diagonal stripe, and then a white diagonal stripe, then cover the top right with a triangle to create this thin line, give it this black diagonal stripe, a white block on the bottom left, and then a white stripe on the left. And for all the Americans out there, trust me, I feel your pain. We take a light blue banner, give it some yellow bricks, a light blue squiggly border, a yellow stripe on the left, light blue spikes on the bottom and on the top, and then a yellow skull pattern. It's kind of just mishmash, this cover, so you could do this multiple different ways. Mishmashy covers are fun because there's kind of a lot of different ways to do them, and this is how I arrived there. Up next, we've got, oh, I love this one so much. This one is Trench by 21 Pilots. Look at that goofy bird. His beak is kind of pointing in the wrong direction, but ignore that. Take a yellow banner, give it a triangle on the bottom left, give it a black skull pattern, a white circle, a black triangle on the bottom right, yellow spikes on the bottom, and then give it a diagonal black stripe from the top left to the bottom right, cutting that circle up so that we've got an eyeball and a beak. From afar, it's so silly, I love this one. Up next, another one that I think really came out nice. I just had to Google the pronunciation real quick just to make sure I got it right. It's Ænima by Tool. Take a black banner, give it a white flower pattern, a white snout pattern on top of that, cyan bricks, and then black bricks to create all the eyes, and then a white circle in the middle. Up next, we got a classic right here. You should be able to identify it by the colors. It's Talkin' Heads, Remainin' Light. Take a red banner, give it a cyan squiggly border, give it some red bricks, a cyan cross, and then a black border. I like the way that the bricks on this one kind of add to the glitchiness to the way that the red is presented on this cover. Okay, glitchy is definitely not the right word, but you get what I mean. Up next, we've seen this band a few times now because they're a big request. It is Hail to the Thief by Radiohead. Another mishmashy one, and I really like the way that this came out. Take a white banner, give it a red X, green stripes, a blue squiggly border, orange bricks, a black gradient from the top, and then light blue spikes on the top. Making this one felt very akin to the Velocity Design Comfort banner, just in that there's a lot of different colors going on here, and I'm just trying to get them generally where they are as accurately as I can. Like with other mishmashy covers, there's multiple ways to get to this end product, and this I feel is the best way to get the colors where they generally are. Up next, we've got a delicious, yummy banner here. It is The Velvet Underground and Nico by The Velvet Underground. I mean, doy, it's a banana. Take a black banner, give it a white block on the bottom, a yellow diamond, a black globe pattern, both the straight and squiggly white borders, and then add a white triangle to the top left. Up next, probably the most massively requested one for this video, Whole Lotta Red by Playboi Carti. Take a black banner, give it a white triangle, triangle on the bottom, a black squiggly border, and then a black diamond, a white circle, red spikes on the top, and then a white border. This one was a fairly straightforward one, and I really love the way it came out. Up next, this one's missing a little bit of text in the corners, but I don't really think it needs it. Other than that, it's spot on. We've got October Rust by Typo Negative. This one does my doubling up trick several times. Take a black banner, give it green bricks 2 times, then give it black bricks on top of that. We do this to make these green shapes in the background as prominent as we can. Then do 2 sets of white stripes and then green stripes so that we get the lighting on the edges of the thorns. And then the brick thing we did in the beginning, that's like the pokey parts on the side. Love this one because it was a simple enough design that I was able to get clever with because I had a lot of layer space. Up next, this one sees it all. It is the Seer by Swans. Take a brown banner, give it a black triangle on the top, a black block on the bottom, a black squiggly border, a brown circle. We cut off the sides a little bit with a black border, and then give it a black gradient from the bottom to give it that darkness that the album cover has. Made this one years ago and I love it. Up next, Obama kept pestering me to put some K-pop in one of these, so I did. So I made 4 Walls by F of X. I don't know if it's actually F of X. I know that's how you say it in math. I don't know if that's how you're supposed to say it, but that's how you say it in math. That's my excuse if I said it wrong. Take a purple banner, give it some light blue stripes, block it off on the top and the bottom with orange, give it some purple spikes on the top, and then cut it in half with an orange block on the top right. Up next, we've got my personal favorite from this band. It is Badmotorfinger by Soundgarden. Take a black banner, give it a purple gradient, and then a black gradient both from the bottom, a white circle, a brown flower pattern, and then red spikes on top. Pretty easy one. Up next, another one that's been requested quite a few times, and this one has 2 different versions of the cover, so just like with Is This It, I wanted to make both of them. It is Mista Thug Isolation by Lil Ugly Mane. For the hand variant of the cover, we take a purple banner, give it a lime stripe, a black gradient from the top, a pink square in the top right corner, a black border, and then cyan spikes on the top and the bottom. And for that cover with a whole lot more things going on, there's a skeleton, some crying dude, and an orb in someone's hands. There's all kinds of things going on with this one. Take a green banner, give it a pink flower symbol, a purple block on the bottom, a black gradient on top, a black border, and then lime spikes on the top and the bottom. I think the hand cover comes out better, but I like both of them. It's just that this one has a lot more detail going on, so I can't really capture it all. Up next, I think this one's got a 50-50 split of joke comments and serious comments, so I added The White Album by the Beatles. Or I guess it's technically just called The Beatles, but everyone just calls it The White Album. And you could just take a white banner and be done with it right then and there. But you know, there's some text going on the cover, there's something you can do. So I added 3 black blocks on the bottom to really strengthen the line that we're going to create here when we add a white block on the bottom, and then I gave it a white border and made the entire left side white. Extremely simple on the surface, still use all the layers. Up next, another top requested one that I've been tinkering with for a few weeks now. I think I finally got it to a place where I'm happy with it. We've got Loveless by My Bloody Valentine, in which we take a black border, give it a red stripe, give it a red triangle on the top left, a magenta squiggly border, black spikes on the bottom, a magenta diamond, and then a magenta gradient from the top. And that reads. A very hazy cover, not as mishmashy as Is This It, because it is a guitar underneath all that haziness. But yeah, this is me trying to get the colors where they are as best as I can, and I think it came out pretty good and still conveys that haziness. Up next, I heard Spider-Man was there. We got AM by Arctic Monkeys. Take a black banner, give it a light gray flower pattern, maybe not what you were expecting, some white stripes, a black triangle on the top and the bottom, a black block on the bottom, Spider-Man, and then a black block on top. This one I went through several iterations with because it's a bunch of white lines. If I were to only do the white stripes, then it would just kind of be 4 thick lines and that would be it. So I figured I'd do something similar to what I did with Unknown Pleasures and use some light gray to convey a lot of lines a little better. And the flower symbol just so happens to perfectly line up with the middle space in between these stripes. So this one's a little left field, a little out of the box, but I really like the way that this one looks. The texturing of a lot more lines than just 4. And finally, for the last new one, probably the most requested one, Graduation by Kanye West. Take a purple banner, give it a light blue stripe, pink spikes on top, a brown block on the top left, a purple border, an orange gradient, and then a white box on the bottom right. Okay, so we all use Google. If you Google album banner designs online, then I'm obviously not the first one to do these. And I try not to exactly repeat what other people have done. I try to do something that is like my own, or at the very least an upgrade on something that I find. There is a Reddit post from a few years ago where someone tried to do a bunch of different Kanye covers, and I took some inspiration from this one, so credit where credit is due. My contribution, since there's the layer space, I added the text a little bit with the pink, and I decided to move the college part outside of the cutoff, because that's a pretty big part of the cover. It touches the edges, it should be on top. And that does it for the new ones. I have a few updates to the pre-existing banners. In the last video I showed off the money store, and there's a few tweaks that I want to show off here. This is a tweak to the simpler design that I showed in the last video. The only change to this one is adding a black block to this top right corner to make the figure on the right a little shorter, just to make it a little more accurate to the cover. We have the layer space for it, we may as well. This top design came from a comment suggestion, and this one focuses on the figure on the left. And I really like this one too. They both work equally well. They both have the same problem, and that both of them only convey one of the figures. This one takes a white banner, gives it a black block on the top left, trims it a little bit with a white diamond, and then gets a white border, a black stripe on the right, and then a white cross. I like the thinking with this step because it both helps divide up the two halves and adds that text wall. So yeah, neither are perfect, but they both get the job done in different ways. Up next, I asked if anyone could figure out how to add the Beatles themselves to the Abbey Road cover because they're gone. They're missing. I was way too hung up on trying to get them into the middle here, like above the bars, but I received a comment suggestion to put a creeper face beneath the bars so that on the end product, they would end up down here. And that's better than this because this one doesn't have them at all. At least they're here. And I took it a step further in thinking, okay, we are able to get them here on the crosswalk, at least 3 of them. R.I.P. John Lennon, I guess. But then I was thinking, you know what, even if it's not the exact shade of the actual cover, why not make the street light gray to make the figures even more prominent? So for that reason, I think this ended up being my favorite version of it. I mean, that's pretty good, right? We got 3 out of 4 of them. That's a whole lot better than where I left it, so thank you for that suggestion. And finally, I got a comment from someone who made Filth in a different way, and I thought it was also very interesting. Also, I realized while setting this up that I actually messed up my own design as well. In the original video where I made Filth, I accidentally gave this black bars when they should have been gray per my original design. The gray makes the teeth a lot more connected, feeling like that's just the middle space between the teeth, a lot better than this one. And as for this variant from the comments, we use a white flower on a black banner, give it a black stripe down the middle, block it off on the top and the bottom with black, and then give it a red border. This is another good variation. I like both of these a lot. I don't know, actually, which one I'd say I prefer. Which one do you guys think works better? I think they both work very well. This one is efficient, gets the job done in fewer steps. This one I kind of like how the individual teeth are a little more prominent. But they're both good, and I'm glad I'm seeing a lot of people in the comments making their own because, oh, that makes me feel like I'm doing something here. Anyways, that is going to do it for this video. Thank you for watching. There will be much, much more. Feel free to leave some suggestions to keep it coming. Feel free to give me any edit ideas because I love making these even better, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye, y'all.